More rewards, more savings. With American Express Business Gold, earn up to $395 back in annual statement credits on eligible purchases at select shipping, food delivery, and retail subscription merchants, including the $155 Walmart Plus monthly membership credit and $240 flexible business credit. Enjoy the benefits of membership with the Amex Business Gold Card. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
This episode is brought to you by Nerds Gummy Clusters, the sweet treat that always elevates the vibe. With a sweet gummy surrounded with tangy, crunchy nerds, every bite of Nerds Gummy Clusters brings you a whole new world of flavor. Whether it's game night, on the way to a concert, or kicking back with your crew, unleash your senses with Nerds Gummy Clusters.
You know what's smart? Enjoying a fresh gourmet meal at home that you didn't have to cook. Meet Factor, your loophole in the laws of mealtime. Chef-crafted meals delivered with a tap, ready in just 2 minutes. You know what's even smarter? Treating yourself without cheating your goals. Factor is dietitian approved, chef prepared, and you plated. Pretty smart, huh? Refresh your routine and eat smart with Factor. Learn more at factormeals.com.
We are continuing our double dipping of themes here because this is an anniversary pick and it's part of Foreign Film February. And Scott, this one is all you as we talk about 2010's Trollhunter, which, I mean, I'll say this much. I feel like I watched this when it first dropped on Netflix years ago, but it was like a total background, like didn't pay attention. This felt like my first real watch of this movie, although random things would happen that I'm like, ooh, I do remember. I remember this.
Same thing. Yeah, I remember the blood of the or not the blood of the Englishman, the Christian. They can smell Christians. I remember that, but that was about it. I just remember the general vibe of my first watch because this was my second. I mean, Kyle, was this your first watch?
I had owned this DVD for years. Owned it for years. Like,
but never watched it.
I mean, I was a kind of a big like magnet releasing. Like releasing was probably like my big like entry point to this, right? Like, but
this was also like when this came out, it was a big deal. Like people talked about this movie pretty early on in its release. This was the first time that I've watched this movie since being a fan of the director's other films.
Sure,
right? Because after this, he does The Autopsy of Jane Doe. He does Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Wait, this guy did Autopsy of Jane Doe?
Yeah, that was his follow-up to
I didn't do any
this.
research on this guy. I just was worried about the plot synopsis.
No,
I didn't know that until
fine.
after the movie. I clicked his name after the movie, and I was like, oh my god, these flicks are great.
I would argue
I was really pleased.
Like, this is a great first feature or whatever, but I would argue of the films that I've watched of his, my least favorite. Like, and he's like kind of found a weird little, well, I guess Autopsy of Jane Doe wasn't, but this is a PG-13 horror. He did Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which was a PG-13 horror.
I enjoyed Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
I was going to say, we love that too. Like, I feel like he knows how to effectively do a non-hard R horror film that's like an enjoyable watch.
That's what I got to do on the Letterboxd is the soundtracking and the in theaters now movies that we've done. Okay, good to know. This is great.
And you know, I would argue that Autopsy of Jane Doe would also be PG-13 if there weren't boobies all over it because it's a naked woman's body.
Yeah, but literally outside of that, it has the pacing of just a regular PG-13 horror film. I mean, we talked about Norway the Curse as like one of the few films that's legitimately scared me while watching it. under the right circumstances with surround sound, Autopsy of Jane Doe will fuck you up.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Of the last like decade, it's one of the few ones that's really chilled me. I fucking love that watch. Anyway, so we need to talk about Trolls and since
what happened over there? Is there a troll there?
I just gotta crack my neck, and then I'm taking a walk into the Blizzard of Hops from Trogs.
This is the closest we've ever been, Scott.
What you got,
I have
baby?
a Trogs as well. Nimble Giant. Yes.
Well, second closest, because the one time we did
Actually,
but I did give you the alley-oop where
You
we
did-
both
yeah,
did
yeah.
Warlock. But this is probably the closest where we had
that's
no
true. This is a-
conversation about it.
No
Fuck yeah.
preconceived conversation. Yeah, no preconceived notions. Trogs, really, they really do lean in. They got elves, they got trolls, they got all sorts of stuff. They work really well for our brand.
Yeah,
jot that
and friend of the
down, Matt. Maybe we can get a
podcast,
sponsorship.
Joshua, Mad Elf is his all-time favorite Christmas beer. Talks about it every year. So
Yeah.
I mean, and that's Trogs, right? Mad Elf.
That's Trogs, Mad Elf, and then they got the Grand Cru, which I think I still have at the store. There's like 1 or 2 packs.
A little
at the
late
store
in the
still.
season, baby.
It's a little late, but that's what always happens with seasonal stuff. Like we we didn't get stuck. And this is going to be so silly. Shout out our beer manager, Jordan, who did a really good job this year of making sure that we didn't get stuck with too much Halloween or pumpkin stuff. And then the holiday stuff is just really a toss-up. You never know who's going to buy beer as a gift, who's going to buy beer for a holiday party. That's always a toss-up, but now we know how many people buy pumpkin beer in our area, and we did a really good job of that.
Well, listen, it's
maybe
not
I'll bring
just-
some Mad Elf to Creature Feature Weekend. Who's to say?
Look, I'm just saying, it's not just beer where you get stuck with that stuff, because Barb
No, it's not.
took a break from coffees to only drink Christmas teas, but didn't complete one of the boxes, and now I just have a box of Christmas tea that I'm sure
you're fucked.
will not get touched till after Thanksgiving of this
Well, and that's
year.
so funny because, like, what is it about American palates that, like, you know, I've fallen victim to it as well. Like, I don't like cinnamon and savory stuff.
Yeah.
First of all, second of all, cinnamon cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, you know, basically pumpkin spice and, you know, Christmas spice things. Only want to drink or taste it between, like, you know, November 1st, well, let's say October 1st or whatever for pumpkin spice, but, you know, we get the fall pumpkin flavor and then we get the Christmas pumpkin flavor, but by the time you're done with the fall pumpkin flavor, you don't want to fucking taste it for another 11 months. And then the Christmas stuff, you don't, I have no interest. Like, I'm just like, get that shit out of my face. But when it's Christmas time, I'm like a slut for it.
I mean,
it's really interesting. That's curious.
Anybody who knows me knows that I basically get a chai tea from Starbucks every single day. But the one time that I change that up is during Christmas. I get a couple pumps of apple pie flavoring in there, so it tastes like an apple pie. And at Christmas time, I get a couple pumps of sugar cookie in there to give it that, like, sugar cookie. But again, December 26th, don't you dare dare pump a little bit of sugar cookie
from me.
in my
Exactly.
drink. I will kill you.
I have had enough. I've had it up to here.
But in 2 weeks,
Sugar cookie.
this Blizzard of Hops is
okay?
dead to me until December 1st. Like, seriously. And there's no cinnamon in it at all. It's just like, it's just.
No, I mean, I don't want a winter lager, even if we have 2 more months. I don't you know what I mean.
Fuck
I don't want
Give
it.
me
I don't
summer
want it.
IPAs from like.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Or Valentine's Day until fucking Labor Day.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No doubt.
Scott, tell us about Trollhunter, though.
Trollhunter.
I wonder if the Norwegians have this problem.
No, they sure don't, because it's cold there all the time. Anyway, so the movie brings us to these 3 Norwegian college students who set out to make a documentary about trolls. No, wait. Just kidding. They're investigating a poacher. But in doing so, they come across this mutilated bear carcass, and then they meet Hans, the poacher, who is actually hunting trolls, not bears. He's not a poacher. He his job, his 5 to 9, if you want, is hunting trolls that get out of their regular territories. And the students are like, that could not possibly be dangerous, life-threatening, or a bad idea. So let's take a left turn here, and we're going to make our documentary that we're doing for college about him looking for trolls. Absolutely idiotic. I love, though, that when they meet, so they're out in the woods, they're walking around, you hear this like huge rustling and these moans, and the sound design of this movie really, that's, if anything makes the most sense about this movie being the precursor to Autopsy of Jane Doe, it's the sound design. I know that that's not necessarily the director's job, but like they are so similar in that sense where the sound design makes both of these movies, because they would not be horror without them. Like this is literally like kind of an annoying killer animal movie until you add the sound effects in.
Visually, it kind of is. I mean, like there's some lag, and this is found footage related. I would even say this about Norway the Curse too. Like there is some moments where there is some lag because we were just in the environment with a camera, and that takes some time. And it's like it's a necessary evil to the style of thing, right? But because the landscape of this one in particular, so bleak and dark, like we have to exist in the darkness in this one in order to get to the interesting moments, like all of that. It doesn't, but the sound is what keeps us in it, and the sound is what kept me in it too. I totally agree. It's pretty gnarly.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, so I'm sorry, I got off on a tangent. It seems to be what I do, but they meet Hans because they're out in the woods and they hear all these sounds, and then Hans comes screaming at their faces, "Troll!" And so they run away. They get to Hans's decked out van, and then they're like, "Hey, what did you say out in the forest? What the fuck? Did you just got it on tape that he's like, troll?" And then he has to explain that he's a troll hunter, and that, you know, it's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
He's totally jaded by
apparently
this has been like a job that people must have held before him too. You know, like this is a job that people don't, it's a government job that apparently only one person can do. He seems to have been the best person that has done it since. But if these trolls are thousands of years old, then they must have been contained in some capacity beforehand. And he's really good at his job. He survived a lot. His truck is all scratched to shit. Yeah. I love that like little sort of like that first reveal where he is. They call him a poacher. The students are gonna go try to investigate, and they look at his van, and it's like the sheet metal is just like torn to shreds. It's still a functional Jeep, but the sheet metal is all torn up. It's great. And yeah, he has this like demure attitude about the whole situation. It's really great. I love his character.
I think that there's a lot of comedy in this film that mostly is pulled from how matter of fact all of this outrageousness is just like casually mentioned. It captures that, like, it captures that same kind of world, which I'm about to say a movie that I cannot believe we've never done an episode on, but it's kind of like when you watch Men in Black, right? How like the comedy in Men in Black is that Tommy Lee Jones just so casually explains all this stuff to Will Smith, who's kind of more of the audience's perspective of like, how can you be so cavalier about all this information? Yeah. And that's kind of where like the elements of comedy come out of this film.
That's where the PG-13-ness of it comes out, I think, is that like the approach to the fantastical, and there's horror for sure, but the approach to the sort of the fantasticalness
it's that
of
kid-friendly kind of horror, though, where it's like, it's like,
it is really,
it's like
soft.
Just silly enough that it's like, even when people are dying and it's scary, it's not as scary as if it was like, you know, we're talking about how this is a found footage movie like last week's was, but this also still has a little bit of that element where it's like, if this was Blair Witch and it was just a bunch of teens walking in the woods being chased down by trolls with no explanation, it's a much scarier movie, but it's also a less fun movie to watch. The fun is going on this adventure with this quirky guy who's like made it his life's mission to kill these trolls.
Yeah, and it's also fun because he's so he's like Kyle said, he's jaded. He's very nonchalant about trolls, and he's giving all this. The exposition feels so fun because it's like they're having, like a Norwegian brunch, and it's like eggs and meat. It's crazy, but they're talking at this diner, and he's like talking about let me get back to my notes here. He says some funny shit. He says this is my new favorite insult for someone who I think is stupid. I'm gonna say that they're in the pits. They are not bright. It's just such a it's so nonchalant. It's fucking great. But he's telling these stories about how like all they do, they're idiot animals, and they live for thousands of years, and all they do is eat shit and mate. And then they're
just mammals. They're just mammals.
Yeah, seems like a good life to me.
Do it like on the Discovery Channel. This is very much
it's literally the Jaws line, right? Like Richard Dreyfuss says, like all this animal knows how to do is eat, sleep, and make baby sharks. Like it's oh man, now I'm starting to think about this movie as a remake of Jaws, and he's your Quint. He's your Quint shark hunter. That's just
he's about to change it. He's about to change his double feature.
I might. This is even more ridiculous than when I tried to pitch that Tremors and Jaws were the exact same plot beats.
I feel like those have both made absolute sense, and no one has ever argued that. So we're good. But then,
I also think you suggested Tremors like 4 times as double features.
That also checks out.
Sounds about right. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we are also introduced to kind of the yin to, or the yang to, whatever, the inverse, the evil mirror version of Hans, the bureaucrat Finn, and he's in charge of the TSS, or Troll Security Service, and they run in, they have a run-in with Finn and the TSS, and they are going to have their tapes confiscated to keep the evidence of trolls a secret. Hans takes them out into the forest to help them get some footage, and he says that he has to disguise them with troll stench, which is basically everything you can squeeze out of a troll. So they are actually bukkakied by trolls. I'm wondering how Hans got the troll cum. I think that's a conversation for a much different podcast than ours, but I just wanted to put a little pin in it.
That's
right
for Horror Movie Night After Dark. We'll talk about that another time.
Check our Patreon. Anyway, so Hans gives them the once over. He's like, none of you motherfuckers better believe in God, or else they'll be able to smell you. And they're like, no, not me. I
Norwegians never believe in God. Not once.
Yeah, never, not once. So then Hans pulls out his flash gun, which is the only weapon that they have against these trolls, which is a kind of a fun little plot point where it looks cool visually, because I'm also gonna say 2 weeks in a row here that the CGI is not great. It's okay, but it's also very corny, and that doesn't make this movie scary, right? Like, that also does not do it any favors, and I think that they knew that, and so they made the trolls very traditional looking, like Nordic, kind of like big noses, kind of slack jawed. Oh
my god, do you remember those figures from the 80s and 90s? They were not like action figures, but they were like decorative figures a la trolls that just had this sort of like chicness and like angular. Oh god, I can't even I can't believe I'm describing them as super visual, tangible item on a podcast. But they are.
I think that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, I guess that is. But they are these figurines, like little figurines, the same way that like little snow angels or precious moments or like that type of thing.
They
was like a troll,
kind of a paint your own kind of.
No, they were put out by a company and they had some texture to them. Again, like Precious Moments is the thing that comes to mind, just as like the most accessible collectible figurine type thing.
I'm gonna do a little bit of googling,
but
real
there
quick,
is a
I do
and
feel like I
but they
remember
look
these.
like they are representative of that. Not necessarily in like a 3 heads, but like an elongated nose, like a different type of like fur or like hair covering, like very similar to the later trolls in which we see. But again, also to the PG-13ness of it, it's like making those trolls look kind of goofy, having the only weapon be this flash gun. Like there is lore involved that it allows it to be fun and fantastical, and I really love that was kind of the only thing that they had was sunlight, or daylight.
Yeah. Like
this is
guy?
what I'm talking about. not troll dolls, but yes, that type of shit.
I searched porcelain trolls, and it came up.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is a company or a name, but as time goes on and as the interest in 80s style troll dolls fades, these things.
Those are fantastic.
There's a lot. Check out the Patreon if you want to see what we're talking about. But yeah, anyway, Scott, continue. You thought you were the only person on a tangent?
Hey, bro, that tangent movie night.
This is what we do.
So they get stuck in a cave because they are. So it's cool though because they have names for different types of trolls.
Yeah.
And so they're going after the cave trolls, and they get stuck because one of the guys was lying about one of the students was lying about being a Christian. He gets eaten, and then they're like, why didn't he just say he was Christian? And I just thought that was a really funny, like it's. Even the one death in this movie feels really funny to me, just because of the framing of it in that scene, and so they're like, okay, it's time to get serious. Oh, I didn't.
And the solution to it too is actually really funny that they bring in another camera person.
Yes,
as well.
exactly.
And they're really not sure that that's the answer, but they have to do it.
Yeah, because they have to have 2-3 camera people, which makes total sense. But there's this side story where they're trying to figure out why the trolls are going outside of their regular territories. It turns out that they have rabies. Tomas, one of the guys in the group, got bitten by a troll that first night when they were out, and they run into Hans for the first time. And so they're kind of in a race against the clock. And so there's this giant mountain troll, the Jotun, that they are going to try to finish him off. It's like this long. I got like a car chase scene. It feels very Children of Men in a way, and it's super. It's just like a fun movie, and the movie kind of ends with an open-ended like, did they survive? Did they get killed by the troll? Did they get put away by the TSS, Finn and the TSS? But then the very end of the movie is that the Norwegian Prime Minister admits that trolls exist, and nobody cares. Nobody accepts nobody believes him. They're like, okay. And it just seems it's another joke. It's a joke on a joke. Like, this movie is so ironically funny. Like, I feel like the irony is what they're really leaning into for their humor. And I really enjoyed that about this watch, because the first time I watched it, I was just like, oh, this is such a fun take. And so digging into it the second time, it's way more like I'm getting the nuance of, I don't know if it's their culture or if it's just the writer and director having a really good time,
Yeah. Yeah, it is one of those things where it's like, this is sometimes the amount of culture that we get. And this is also a great conversation for Norway the Curse, too. It's like, sometimes this is the culture that we get in media representation that gets to us, right? Like, and it's like, it does make for a fantastic story and something that we can like really dive into and really like chew on. But there is a deeper level to that. It's like, is that for, it being a Norwegian film, it's like, is that a representation of the culture? Is that something to sell to us, right? Like, it's, I don't know what that
Norwegian
is,
listeners, let us know.
Yeah, fill us in.
That's an email.
I would love to know. But I think that it is there. It's not made up shit that they're like trying to like, you know, pull wool over the eyes of other cultures. But at the same time, it's like it allows for an accessibility and like a humor about it. Like this one is so funny. And there's moments of Norway the Curse too that were like really funny that don't, you know, that like you don't consider because particularly that one's very scary. But this one has a lot of like accessible humor to it. And I loved that. And I mean, this is the first watch for me, so you hearing those nuances is interesting. But like, I would love to go back and watch it with somebody too, and just be like, this is a fun little like monster found footage romp. Like, this is, you know, I wish that I had kept my DVD. I had gotten rid of it. I don't know where or when. I don't know, like, but it's gone. It's not in my collection anymore. So I have to kind of remedy that. I think it's something that I want to have on my shelf. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a really good time with this watch.
Yeah.
My only problem with the movie is this concept that that trolls kind of need to be exterminated because you know, I need to save the troll
is so
shirt.
vast. It should be fine.
Yeah. So we're gonna watch for our TeePublic new shirt design drop. Save the trolls.
Save the trolls.
Love it.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
We're here to entertain you. We'll sing your song.
Hey there. Are you obsessed with things that happened before your time? Well, if you are, join me, the host of Before My Time, Kelsey Laurie, to discuss the wonders of the yesteryears that we weren't around to enjoy ourselves. You can find us on all podcast platforms.
Dixieland's a playing. Soon you'll be swaying, so come on, sing along.
Anyway, so I think that we need to go into arguably the best part of our show, which is the what would we double feature with this. And I'm going to keep it short with Frogman. Does he fuck? No, actually, I don't ever want to watch Frogman again. That movie was fucking terrible. I could not do 2 found footages in a row. That would be just nutsos. But I could go kind of the complete inverse of folk horror. And go with a super serious one, The Ritual, which I have only watched once, and I remember it being a huge slog until you see the monster. So I feel like it's really it's the Finn at the TSS to Hans the Trollhunter, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
What about you, Matt?
Beautiful.
I am going with a found footage movie. I'm actually, Kyle, I'm not sure how many times I've mentioned this before, but it's definitely a repeat that I'm about to bring up.
I have the numbers. Today was my day for double features. I should have the numbers.
I want to go with Incident at Loch Ness, which was...
Only once before.
Okay.
Only once before.
And I think that was right before you did...
And it was at Crater Lake.
Crater Lake,
actually.
right? Or was it on Crater Lake? I don't remember.
Either one.
It was on the Crater Lake episode.
But that's my boy Werner Herzog. Just it's the same vibe. It's that same like this thing is happening and we're trying to track down this creature, and it's a documentary that kind of gets taken off its course and then finding out that like maybe the Loch Ness monster exists. It's not as on the nose as Trollhunter where we physically see the monster. It's a little bit more ambiguous, but it just had a very similar energy to it, I guess. So that would be my double feature. How about you, Kyle?
So 2 things. One, I know I can't remedy my double feature from the week previous, but I misattributed the one that I had for today with last week's in my notes. So I had As Above, So Below as last week's after Ghost Watch. But the way that I had yeah. So it's just a suggestion, as above, so below in any capacity here in these past couple of weeks is a great rewatch. But the one that I actually want to pair with Trollhunter is, and this it does pain me a little bit to suggest it, but Adam Green's Digging Up the Marrow.
Dude, I love that movie. Adam Green's a fuck, but that movie's awesome.
I think that movie has some legs that maybe, and
what year was that?
Maybe people haven't. It's 2012. No. It's 2015. 2016.
Yeah. We're really close to being able to talk about it on the show.
Digging Up the Marrow is something that I think flew under the radar.
2014, dude. We missed it last year.
2014. Really? Okay. Yeah. Digging Up the Marrow is worth a rewatch. I think that it kind of is an American version of this without the cultural folklore, right? Like it's like more of like a singular artist having a thing, right? Because he teamed with Alex Pardee to make these monsters, right? So it's like, but Ray Wise is great. I think the approach to it, like monster hunting, is great. Adam Green is polarizing for sure.
But Ray Wise is awesome in that movie. So
Ray Wise is awesome, and I remember seeing it it was like probably one of the first movies I must have seen when I moved out to LA as like a fun screening, right? Like not just like a going to the movies, but like as like there's some sort of like gravitas to the screening. But Digging Up the Marrow is a really, really fun watch to do with this. So that's my suggestion.
Also, the unofficial sequel to Nightbreed, in my mind.
Oh, hell yeah.
Which may show up a little bit later this year in another discussion.
That makes sense.
Interesting.
All right. Well, if you've been enjoying all the content that we're giving to you for free on your podcasting app, feel free to look up our Patreon, patreon.com/HMN Podcast. Visit our website, HMN Podcast, where you can buy a bunch of different shirts from us. Or if you want even more specific shirts that are maybe not available on our website, go to TeePublic and search HMN Podcast. Additionally, find us on Letterboxd at HMN Podcast. That's also what we are on every social media site. And if you want to be part of our newsletter, email us at hmnpodcast@gmail.com. And now everyone's favorite part of the show, the what did I watch, listen to, read, etc. Scott, this one was your pick. What do you got for us?
I didn't do this on purpose, but I had some like promotional credits for digital stuff on Amazon Prime, and I rented Humanistic Vampire Seeking Suicidal Individual.
I've heard this is so good. I've heard so many good things about
Consenting Suicidal Person. Kyle's the one who said that it was so good. It's in French. Is it a Quebecois movie or is it French? I think it's
French.
But anyway, it was so charming. Matt, you're going to have to dedicate like an hour and 45.
Foreign Film February.
Yeah, but for real, it's really good. It's fun, it's cute, it's charming, it's sad. It just is like barely a horror movie, you know, like it's a dramedy wrapped in the trappings of a vampire movie. It's such a great little romp. Great movie. Absolutely 100% suggest what people watch it.
All right. I'll go next. I kind of got two, but one's like a very quick recommend. Obviously doing YA okay. I've been reading a ton of new YA books, and I just finished one earlier this year called The Misdirection of Fault Lines by Anna Gracia. And it is it's just a charming little like story of three different girls that are all in a tennis tournament together, and they start off as friends until the tournament starts to parse down to the final four and they're all still a part of it, and just sees if their friendship can last the athletic push that they're a part of. But kind of tying into what we were talking about earlier about like how this is kind of a good like starter film for kids. For reasons I don't understand, in January, Disney Plus just dropped a new season of Goosebumps with like no promotion and and didn't do like a weekly
Isn't David
episode
Schwimmer
drop.
the main character or something?
David Schwimmer's the main character, and like I kind of went into it being like, all right, they're dropping this in January. They're dropping it all at once as opposed to weekly. They must think that this is bad. I loved it. I thought that it would, Scott, you would love it, honestly, because it is so gooey.
I've been putting it off. Oh, I'm fucking in.
It's inspired by of all the. I mean, it does kind of the same thing that the Fall of the House of the Usher did, where they're pulling in like 4 or 5 different plot lines of Goosebump books into like a central story. But the main focus of this one,
you know,
so like I'll give you the soft pitch at the beginning of it. The first episode starts off in 1994, and a group of teenagers break into this underground base that was like used as a testing ground, and they turn on the machinery, and then they all melt, like full skin melting to skeleton. Thing.
What?
And David Schwimmer plays the younger brother of one of the missing kids who's dedicated his life to finding out what happened to his brothers and his friends, and it turns into this like people are growing plants inside of their bodies. They have to like slice open their arm to get the plants out of them and stuff. It's such a gooey, fun little show. Now,
hell yeah.
I will say it is. We talked a lot about how Nori was like a tight script where all these little vignettes pieced together. There are some episodes that are just episodes to be episodes, and then it's like kind of very like rudimentarily tied back into it. But in the grand scheme, I had a good-ass time watching it. Like, it was a fun, gooey PG-13 watch. So I recommend it as like maybe watch like an episode or 2 a night for a week and just knock it out.
I'm set. I'm doing it, Matt. I love you. Thank you so much.
Love that.
You're welcome, buddy. That's what I'm here for.
I watched. So I live and am from Connecticut, and we don't have a lot of movies that are like so Connecticut, right? Like, but Mystic Pizza is a very specific Connecticut movie. You know, and Mystic Pizza exists, and Mystic Pizza.
Is it any good?
For those who
is Mystic Pizza any good?
Mystic Pizza's great. What my stepmother used to work for Mystic Pizza Frozen Foods, which no longer exists. Like they were so popular that they were able to sort of brand as a frozen food company. They used to sponsor a race car that I used to race. I'm kind of really digging in. My history with Mystic Pizza as a thing, as an entity, goes pretty deep. I had never seen the movie, and you know, it's a rom-com. It's got Julia Roberts. It's got Lily Taylor. It's got Vincent D'Onofrio. It is really charming. Like I know that like sometimes the double feature, or not the double features, but the what did we watch, it doesn't need to be. And I do this a lot because I like to revisit things or visit things for the first time. I don't know, just blind spots or things that are really good. But so for me to reiterate that Mystic Pizza is a fun rom-com is very redundant. But I really enjoyed it. So if you needed to hear me say that Mystic Pizza is a really nice romantic, I mean, it's not like super super funny, but like God bless it, Julia Roberts is just so good. Like she is so good, and it's like one of those things where it's like I grew up with Julia Roberts already as a name, so then to go back and see sort of some like charisma and some like true like, oh, this is where she came from, and like this is like what solidified her. I kind of get to get it again. You know, Vincent D'Onofrio is not necessarily like great in this movie, but it is cool to see him in an earlier role. Same with like Lily Taylor. Like I like her. I think she's really great in this movie.
Oh, Lily Taylor's great, yeah.
But if you want to just like dive into like a romantic movie that has some 80s 90s vibes, that like, I mean, I recommend Mystic Pizza. Like I don't think it's streaming anywhere. Like I had a DVD, but like, you know, listen, I highly recommend that you go out and get yourself some physical media, because I don't know what's going to happen here, but things are bleak. And if you would like to have something tangible that you can rely on, and then also you can do whatever you need to. It's not like you can't make a digital archive of the things that you own, but I just recommend that you seek out things that you don't normally see. And Mystic Pizza was really, really charming. That was a placeholder because I have other things I want to talk about later on, but Mystic Pizza is charming as fuck.
Nice. Love to hear that.
Let's come get some Mystic Pizza. Come up here. We'll all get pizza. It's fine.
Kyle,
slice of heaven.
Kyle, the Foreign Film February was your creation, and you kicked it off, and now you get to wrap it up next week. So stay tuned for what the final film is that we watch for this month of theming, and we'll be back next week with more Horror Movie Night.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.